It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days and should be up on all of them about now. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that we delve into here, and getting back on track for this week kind of treats today as Monday-ish, where we're definitely delving into all the subjects here and the things that are affecting us here in the borderland. Yes, we will still have Friday, but just trying to make up and still do the things that we need to do and talk about the things that affect us in the borderland and sometimes beyond, but definitely focusing on the borderland, the impacts, and the things that come with it here. And yeah, there are sometimes arguments about, well, this will eventually affect us here, but let's go with a little bit more immediate sense. Sure, the things going on nationally, and there are a lot of stories percolating there today that we trust our other hosts on the station to deal with, but let's talk about the stuff right here, right hitting at home, because we've got more than a few things, just a couple of things, top of mind anyway, to definitely delve into right now, including a couple of crashes, road shutdowns, etc., stemming from law enforcement pursuits and at least suspected at this point to be potentially involved in smuggling attempts. What are the actual policies that are on the back end of this? Some more investigation going on locally about it, including on those new Border Patrol, CBP, DHS agencies involved in this in general, rules that are going into this. What's a little bit more detail on that? Because we've had some inklings about new policies, changing policies, definitely calls for action on what these policies are and how they will work. But as we keep seeing these happening around the areas, what is kind of on the back end, we'll certainly be delving into that. El Paso's county attorney not seeking re-election. We'll get into that here. Yeah, we'll probably talk about the snow or lack thereof for my neck of the woods, sure, but there definitely was some in the region. So we'll talk a little bit about that further here, as well as, again, what is going on with some of the, well, even immigration law cases, etc., as a little bit more clarity in the aftermath of some of those recent national political visits to our area about how it's going to be formed, formulated, put forth. What are some of the responses that are coming from that, including new lawsuits being filed, well, today, as far as I'm aware. So there's a lot to get into here today. So we're got another jam-packed show for you on all of these things. So if you're wanting to, of course, chime in, we got over on the social media already dropping those likes and reacts. We do have James Holmes, Robert Haynes, Monica Cervantes. Do appreciate that. You can, of course, leave your comments there as well throughout the duration of the program because, well, I appreciate the interaction that comes with it here. You certainly don't have to, and we don't want to say anything neglecting our on-air audience because however you're all tuning in any of those places that we mentioned, if it works for you, that's the right place for you to be as we continue our mission to have live local talk radio in the borderland and talk about the things that affect us right here, because as much as there is always a lot going on, no one else is going to talk about the things the way we do here right at home. So again, those subjects we got going on for you today. Phone lines a little bit later in the program, as we usually do. So again, back on track for this week, getting past some of the weirdness that was going on. But, well, we always roll with the punches, and we'll keep punching it up and punching out these topics that we got going on. So let's go straight into a couple of circumstances going on as of just, well, earlier today, among other things. I mean, a couple of pursuits. I've mentioned previously that we don't usually end up on this program anyway. We trust our news partners and other media in town to do this. We don't do the chasing car crashes, crimes, things like that until they start reaching a level of, okay, this is becoming a pattern, a trend, a thing to be concerned about. Like I think we did talk about that a while back, that one individual who had been doing a crime spree and apparently may have done it again. Anyway, point is that once it reaches a level of, okay, what can we do about this? Because a one-off often ends up being involved in, okay, what was going on in those people's lives? What was the circumstances around it here? And again, they chased it pretty well. But the fact that we keep talking about the fact that someone, I want to say it's RJ over in the comments, has been talking about a branded television segment / series involving chases. I mean, once it reaches such a level like that is, yeah, definitely something that needs to be talked about a little bit further. So I have Amber Banda over in the comments there, rocking as well. Okay, couple of incidents just to set the table for this. As of this morning, Loop 375 westbound lanes along Trans Mountain specifically were closed off at around 7 a.m., around the 7 a.m. time frame, cleared by 7:40. But the pictures actually from our news partners there at KFOX 14 as of today, as we also have Robbie Flores. Hello to everyone as well, and a wave for you there too. There was looking like a number of people in custody kind of along those. Still construction going along Trans Mountain as you get into the higher reaches of it. So along near some of those concrete barriers, not next to travel lanes, basically, or on the other side of them from travel lanes. And so what has being put out there, according to the Texas Department of Transportation, incident stemming from a pursuit. So a pursuit, a part of that. And then I think we'll also have more on this from our news partners at KFOX 14. 4 vehicles involved in the crash on Loop 375 near North Loop as of a little bit later in the morning as well. 4 vehicles involved, including a semi-truck, and they were closing down the lanes. Yep, pretty much at Loop 375 near the major interchange, the East Side Spaghetti Bowl, Fideo Bowl. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the way they're putting it here. Robbie Flores mentioning that there's also road construction on the Anthony Gap down to 1 lane, so kind of confounding efforts more. But a little bit more information has come out on that more recent incident. I mean, it was like around 10 a.m., give or take, so still talking about the morning, but the fact that there may have been people in custody from that, possibly related also to smuggling efforts. Again, full reports coming up from our news partners there at KFOX 14, leading to, well, there have already been questions. I want to say it was, last October, September, like third quarter last year, there were a lot more questions coming about what pursuits are, what actually is going on. RJ saying tonight there's a sinkhole in the episode, the one they're talking about there. I mean, I guess we've got to keep it exciting for drama purposes, but this is real life. This is the part I keep coming back to. So the fact that there keep being these pursuits, and this is kind of going back to the other immigration topics that we're also going to focus on here today, as there's more response going on to it. But the idea of having just solely, essentially, enforcement side of it here. Oh, Don Brownson mentioning another sinkhole in El Paso. Yeah, we got a lot of, I mean, the rain and snow mix, whatever, may not have totally worked out. I mean, it kind of fizzled out in my area of town, but whenever we got weird weather like that going on, that can certainly happen. But in any case, on the immigration part of it and on the, the border security, the enforcement side of it, we do kind of keep seeing it there. Oh, yeah, we got the pictures up now from our news partners there at KFOX 14 about the sinkhole from some of those rains here in South Central. And, yep, swallowing up a car. Hopefully no one too injured from that. No one had been reported, but the person was being checked on the scene, according to our partner Cruz over there. So fun times out on the roads, I guess, in general, sub-headline going on for a lot of the stuff we're talking about right now. But of course, the policies, the parts that go into this, not the sinkhole as much, that's a maintenance issue that'll hopefully be dealt with. But when it comes to the pursuits and particularly immigration, border security, all of these connected topics, definitely leave a lot of questions to be had. We even had some on this program about, okay, what goes into it? There have been quote unquote clarifications being offered even by some of the regional authorities on this, but what actually goes into it as beyond use good judgment. If the clarification is use better judgment, a little bit more specificity would be nice. And there's some more reporting going on that regionally. We'll get into that more as we are already do for that first break of the first part of this hour right now, as we also have Flaco Jimenez chiming in. Hello to all and to you as well. More comments coming in, of course. Add your 2 cents throughout the course of the program over there, and phone lines a little bit later, as we usually do. So taking that first break, coming back, talking more about the policies behind these pursuits and, well, what that might be thought about here. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk further about that. And again, talking that break. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this. Like I said, phone lines a little bit later, comments going on throughout. But in any case, more Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690 Northbound in the loop in the lower valley at North Loop Drive, a stalled semi is blocking the right shoulder. Montana Avenue eastbound is slow with 10-minute delays between McRae out to Zaragoza. Road construction has the roadway reduced to one lane in both directions, I-10 eastbound between Vinton and Red. And a crash with injuries, Montana Avenue eastbound at Geronimo. Try Trowbridge as your alternate there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Are you tired of listening to stories that are saturated with wokeness? If you are, then you should try Red Pilled America. We tell good old-fashioned stories that align with middle America values. Listen to Red Pilled America anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
Attention business owners. Stop throwing your hard-earned money away on rent. Imagine owning your own building and saving thousands every year. Sound impossible? Not if you use General Steel. General Steel can help you save thousands by owning your own custom-designed building. Just call 866-62-STEEL or visit getgeneralsteel.com to see how much money you can save with General Steel. Our buildings come with a 50-year warranty, and thousands of companies, from Fortune 500 corporations to startups, have trusted the General with their building needs.
If you need to expand or start a new business, you really need General Steel.
I'm very impressed with General Steel. Everyone's been extremely helpful. I'd recommend General Steel to anyone looking to build a steel building.
Stop wasting money on rent. Call 866-62-STEEL. That's 866-62-STEEL. Or visit getgeneralsteel.com to find out about all our popular quick construction kits, including a 40 by 60 foot building or a 50 by 100 clear span building. Just call 866-627-8335 now or getgeneralsteel.com.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, Texas. There are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
It's Jesse Kelly here. I can't afford to lose 30% of my 401k or IRA again, and I'm assuming you can't either. Call Oxford Gold. Securing your IRA or 401k with real gold and silver is a portfolio protection plan, and Oxford Gold has made it easy as 1, 2, 3. One app, one call, and you pick your precious metals. That's it. You now own precious metals. Call Oxford Gold today to learn more about the 1, 2, 3 protection plan. 833-404-GOLD, 833-404-GOLD.
All right, class, let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Online classes for adults age 50 and up start on February 6th in the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Texas, El Paso. Registration runs through January 27th. Topics include art, history, literature, music, fitness, and more. Visit utep.edu/OLLI or call 915-747-6280.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less. The main one, though, there are plenty of others that we're up on here, including other Facebook pages, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv. Should be coming in over from the YouTube there. XRP Gino saying, love your show. You're a massive inspiration and idol to many of us. Much love, I think, from the gay community. Okay, I mean, sure, we talk about a lot of issues here, and if you appreciate it, sure. I mean, not exactly something we've delved into particularly recently, but I mean, it's not necessarily outside the scope of it. But in any case, appreciate that anyway. But also chiming in, including Eric von Holstein-Rathlow with the, I'm going to take that as a little bit of a cheeky sun emoji, as it was very sunny. I mean, it was overcast yesterday, and there were, of course, all those expectations coming into today about the potential for just winter bad weather overall. And just because a lot of it didn't see it, I mean, the joke that someone made yesterday, I can't remember who, about there being 38 snowflakes on the ground mean everyone's going to shut things down. I mean, kind of in a way, sort of, not really. If you go over Texas Rescue Patrol, who we've had on the show and on other places on our airwaves in previous years, if you ever stuck out in the Red Sands area, they're probably the ones that are going to help you out. Showing that heavy slush along Highway 62-180 in Hudspeth County. And so we did see it in areas, and they have some pretty crazy footage, actually, if you go check them out, of vehicles like kind of fishtailing all over the road here. Like, just because it doesn't look too bad doesn't mean, oh geez, I'm glad I wasn't out in that region, is all I'm saying here. As there's literally a truck, they got a video of them driving along, and a truck just careening into a ditch, staying upright and not like flipping over. But seriously, there were some bad situations out there, even if for maybe a lot of people, besides the whole time delay of it and the kind of upheaval that comes from it, there was maybe not as much going on with like the school delays or the real need for them. Though I will say this, that definitely one of those need and not have. You definitely don't want to be in that. You'd rather have it and not need it with the delays, and part of it because if the weather had turned out bad, I mean, last night it was kind of looking that way. Luckily Meta's even saying that they canceled our early morning runs as a precaution. I know other people whose the companies were in the possibility for, not yours obviously, where we'll call it for a work from home day, those kind of things. So at the very least, being aware of the potential for it, I'm going to take it as a good dry run if we ever really do get into the heavy stuff from it, even if it was annoying. I mean, screwed up some of my appointments even here, I'll be honest with you all. So, not saying RJ saying that 35 snowflakes, I took the under and won $50 here, gambling on the weather. That's a hell of a thing. I think it depends on what side of and what reach of town you're in, I do suppose. But speaking again about the traffic there, coming out here this afternoon, a sinkhole reported in south central El Paso, responding to the area as of now, looking like a hatchback that got kind of, or something similar to it, stuck into it. So about two and a half cars wide. So not a fun thing. And El Paso Water now taking charge of that there. And Monica Cervantes and Eric von Holstein-Rathlow also mentioning the pursuit that happened elsewhere on our roadways, including, I think you're referring to the 4 vehicles on Loop 375. Ended up being a crash there, or unless you're talking about the one that happened on Trans Mountain. So the fact of the matter is that the fact that we've had multiple of these even in a day, much less within recent weeks, but they just put a pin in it. Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying that pursuit ended perfectly, criminals were apprehended and no one else got hurt. And Monica Cervantes saying, just drove through that, lots of traffic being delayed, as I think one of the semis, according to our traffic reports, there may still be, or another one potentially still being stalled in the area. So bit of a mess. Keep your eye on those traffic reports, or an ear out for them anyway. Point is that the fact that we keep having these issues on our roadways from this one specific circumstance about, again, pursuits that may not even be intended to be like immigration enforcement actions. The fact that these keep happening have, of course, been leading to questions about, okay, what is the policy behind this? So El Paso Matters, local nonprofit reporting concern with the article titled out here, quote, severity of crime, end quote, must be considered in Border Patrol pursuits. And, okay, I was slightly wrong. It was actually July last year where there was a crash in Santa Teresa that ended up with some fatalities. Kind of an iconic picture that was around there and coming from that point in time. That particular incident that had some, well, was raising a lot of questions. Like I want to say like several different legal-ish organizations, ACLU among others, were wondering about what exactly is coming from them here. So specifically, the way they are stating is that starting in May, border law enforcement agents will be prohibited from engaging in a vehicle pursuit solely on the grounds of a vehicle failing to stop at a checkpoint or yielding to an agent attempting to pull it over. Instead, they must consider, quote, the government's interest before chasing a vehicle, and some of the more specific questions, including what's the severity of the crime believed to have been committed by those involved, and what's the level of the subject's threat, and additionally risk to the vehicle's occupants must be weighed alongside those to public safety and agents themselves, a point not previously outlined in the guidelines. So it's interesting. And again, the article further quotes Rebecca Sheff, senior staff attorney at the ACLU of New Mexico, that raised some of these questions and the things that were going into it. And so they also have linked over on their article some of the updated ones. I had found some previous ones, some previous ways that these were actually the policies anyway were being put forth here. John Brazelton saying, keep up with the CBP pursuits. Soon everyone drivers will be arrested. Notably, this does not prohibit them. This does not say no more pursuits, but it kind of puts a bit, I will say, a few more pure constraints on there. Again, as pointed out by El Paso Matters, specifically a point that was not in the guidelines about risk the vehicle's occupants, but also be weighed alongside those to public safety and agents themselves. So again, I would say more stringent, and I mean, by that focus, of course, more restrictive, and therefore limiting, though I don't know if that's necessarily the entire point of it is, because, I mean, we've had incidents within the last couple of weeks, I don't remember the exact date on it, where there was a crash that was caused by a vehicle pursuing a, well, Border Patrol vehicle, I do believe, that had basically just turned on its lights. The vehicle that was then being pursued sped off, and then I do believe either crashed or rolled, leading to injuries there, but also apprehensions. So the number of these that we're seeing, I don't have a firm tally, but I'm fairly confident in saying dozens of incidents at this point over, let's call it within the last 6 months for sure. And again, some of these inciting a real focus on these and policy reviews being triggered starting as of last July. This has been a trend, and one that has gotten, again, uncomfortably close to home in a couple of ways, including the neighborhood where I live and literally right across the street from us here. By the way, I don't know if I brought this up. They seem to have done a pretty decent repair. It's lets you know what to look for. You wouldn't know that building, the restaurant across the street, had been crashed into by a fleeing vehicle, in which that case there were several apprehensions, a number of them that happened outcoming that. So the fact that this is happening on our roads, as much as it's being put forth as a potential reality show, which just has implications, does lead to a level of concern. And so these policies and the more clarity of them, I would still kind of call it not exactly nebulous, but not probably as concrete. Yeah, Flaco Jimenez Comos, right across the street from us here on North Mesa Street, in between, basically, the way I put it is Sun Bowl and Executive. Yep, they clipped a corner over there. And again, they're fully in operation, so this is not meant to be saying anything against Comos here. They just were victims of a crime, or the aftermath of one, and therefore a crime in its own right, I guess would be the right way to put it here. But of course, the incidents we've seen have also been having dozens of deaths, not even just locally, but in our regional area. So again, the way it's being put forth there, Flaco Matt is saying it's a good restaurant. We keep ending up having some restaurant talk in our comments. I guess we keep talking about eggs. So don't smuggle eggs, just to cook them up yourself. So the way El Paso Matters notes that I think is very significant, that the new guidelines don't prohibit vehicle pursuits. They do expand the definition of objectively reasonable and also provide stronger oversight and accountability in years past. In the January press release, which we did talk about at the time, saying, quote, critically, this does not prohibit pursuits. CBP's unique border security mission requires that it retain the ability to pursue vehicles. So again, not going away, not going after it. And so there is some more stringentness. I think that the way I take the policy anyway, for lack of anyone actually falling under it, commenting on it, is that there will be more eyes on it. So it should not be maybe a knee-jerk reaction of continue the pursuit. We're not exactly getting into the, what do you hear in popular media sometimes? They don't chase you after 2 blocks, they don't chase you. There's no hard and fast rules as part of this anyway, at least being publicly released, that come along with it, though I suppose that there is the possibility of that coming in the long run, because again, we keep seeing that happen in our area. I kind of see it 2 buckets of the symptoms of the situation we are in here regionally. I mean, sure, the pursuits and the crashes and the apprehensions that have come along with them are certainly a very important part of it. But then the kind of flip side of that coin, I guess, that I see it as, is also then the stash houses, because sometimes there are the direct transports going to, points usually further north, east, west, etc. from here. I mean, we've had a lot of focus on them going north to like Albuquerque and even further there. RJ saying egg smuggler's vehicle overturns in chase. What a mess, losing millions of dollars in the progress is what I would add to that there. Seriously, the fact that we're talking about egg smuggling 2023 did not have that on my bingo card. But in any case, the fact of the matter is that we do have, of course, the direct transports, which it's not always clear that's these apprehensions coming after these pursuits and chases and therefore crashes come from. But then there's also, of course, the stash houses, because not all are going straight into a vehicle and to whatever the destination is at that point. It also doesn't even preclude the possibility of them being transported to stash houses everywhere else. So to their whatever their points of origin or points of destination were there. So I see these again as 2 buckets of, but really 2 sides of the same coin, because they are all further symptoms of immigration policy and or the security aspect of it, and why I continue to say that, okay, I am maybe not exactly optimistic in this case, but some of the bipartisan focus, particularly from the Senate side of things, has been of interest, because I have been saying for a while that a multifaceted approach to this, not just the immigration reform, not just the border security aspect of it, but really both and many points in between, are probably the most important and useful way that this issue can be dealt with, because frankly, I think we're seeing the symptoms of solely a border security focus, though this is not to say that there aren't other focuses within that as well, including on the immigration part of it. So that's actually going to take us to that next break right now, and getting into that, some of the things that were talked about during recent visits or the policy coming out of it, recent visits here to the borderland, including like CBP One app and other things, a little bit more information and response coming out to it, including a new lawsuit that has been filed and releases out today from El Paso, well, the Attorney General for Texas and therefore affecting El Paso, filing against the policies and the procedures, new numbers and figures coming out like that. So let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Come back, talk further about that, what those responses are. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. Open up the phone lines at the end of next break, as we usually do. But then also taking those comments over online, Flood Commanders, James Radcliffe, RJ, John Brownson, Monica Cervantes, some of the more recent ones, but still taking those. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. Longtime El Paso County Attorney Joanne Bernal announced today she is not seeking re-election. Bernal's term will end December 2024 after 14 years of service. In 2009, she became the first woman elected county attorney in El Paso's history. During her time as county attorney, Bernal offered legal advice to the county during the emergency declaration during the pandemic and the migrant crisis. As county attorney, Bernal manages an office with an annual budget of $7.5 million and supervises more than 100 employees. She gives no explanation so far as to why she'll not try to continue. And in crash involving a law enforcement pursuit closed all southbound lanes along Loop 375 at North Loop this morning. The crash in El Paso's Lower Valley was reported just before 10 a.m., and our crews obtained video of several men detained on their knees who were apparently riding in the vehicle. A total of 4 vehicles were involved, including a semi in the collision, according to El Paso fire officials. We'll have more information in our newscast. For now, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
El Paso Fire is responding to an injury accident North Desert Boulevard at Red. Traffic slowing on the I-10 westbound from Wrestler up to Artcraft with 5-minute delays. Montana Avenue eastbound traffic's getting slower between McRae and Zaragoza with 15-minute delays. And police still working an earlier crash northbound Yarborough at North Loop Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like a dry and cold one for tonight. Keep the coats and jackets handy. Temperatures in the 40s for this evening, dropping down into the 20s by tomorrow morning. Partly cloudy skies, highs in the 40s, so another coat jacket day for tomorrow. And then for your Friday, partly cloudy after lows in the teens and 20s. We'll see highs in the lower 50s, so the cooler pattern continues. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Are you tired of listening to stories that are saturated with wokeness? If you are, then you should try Red Pilled America. We tell good old-fashioned stories that align with middle America values. Listen to Red Pilled America anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Attend the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, January 28th and 29th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Maddox, El Paso, Texas. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, custom knives, ammo, scopes, rifles, shotguns, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, January 28th and 29th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Maddox, El Paso, Texas. Get $2 off admission. For more information, go to azgunradio.com.
Staples has everything you need to get organized this year at amazing savings. Right now, get up to 50% off select folders, file cabinets, file boxes, and storage bins. In-store only, offer ends 1/28. Make this year your year with Staples, the working and learning store. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we exist on, at least in part anyway, at facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, are just some of the places you can get at us here. Of course, I mean, all the in-betweens, other places we're posted on, as well as, different ways online, on air, and all those things. I mean, we mentioned them so that you know the options. Let's just say it that way. If ever you need to be able to get us, whatever works best for you, that's the right place for you to be. So we continue our mission to have live local talk radio here in the borderland, dropping those likes and reacts over on primarily the Facebook here. James Radcliffe, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, James Holmes, Robert Haynes, and Monica Cervantes do appreciate that here. Before we move on to some of those other things, including what was mentioned during the news break there, one more thing I want to put a pin into about what is being analyzed as a technique that will no longer be allowed under the CBP's new guidelines and Border Patrol's therefore enforced ones when it comes to pursuits, is going to be that the pit maneuver, the one where, well, the point is to put them in the ditch, basically, that you hit the side of a vehicle in order to get it to spin out, therefore lose speed and control, that is no longer going to be allowed under the new guidelines, which it makes a bit of sense here, as noted by El Paso Matters in their article here. The precision immobilization technique is supposed to make a fleeing vehicle spin and come to a stop, a move experts have called highly dangerous at speeds above 35 miles per hour, and also saying that more than 90 people have died in pursuits involving Border Patrol as of November 15th, according to the ACLU's tracker on the subject there. So some of the things that are changing with it and the whole policies. And I mean, they also do point out that incidents involving pursuits in the region doubled from just under 150 in 2021, that fiscal year, to more than 300 in 2022 fiscal year. So we're definitely seeing upticks, differences. So the policies that for guide these are certainly important here. As was also mentioned, of course, by our news partners at KFOX 14 during the news break there, a significant bit of political local news is that the county attorney, Joanne Bernal, has announced that she is not seeking re-election, so her term will end December of 2024. A lot of focus coming on to that 2024 election. I mean, we, of course, got the implications coming nationally, but a couple of things that are very much going to be on the ballot locally speaking anyway, is certainly going to include, well, the district attorney seat, of which there's a lot of development coming before then. But Bernal, in her statement on her not running for re-election, saying, quote, "Has been in the honor of a lifetime to serve this community. I intend to finish my term and have much left to accomplish, but I want to make this announcement today to give the community plenty of time to consider the candidates that will be vying for this important position." Now, there's already some implication or response, including James Ratcliffe over in the comments, to Bernal's time in office. But what I will say is that honestly, the county attorney ends up being one of those positions that kind of flies under the radar for most El Pasoans. I also kind of put in the same bucket as like our state representatives. Not to say that they are unimportant, but don't come to top of mind for a lot of people. I would say probably one of the most significant things, as of course was mentioned during the news break, is that the potential prosecution that was then rendered moot and dismissed of the district attorney, then district attorney Yvonne Rosales. The actual trial for her removal would have been done through or been pursued by the county attorney's office. So not a whole lot of people end up interacting with this of like local-ish based attorney positions. I'd say we end up talking about, say, the city attorney a bit more, but similar types of things going on with that position, but in different ways. I mean, the county and the city, they may be seen as, well, further two sides of the same coin, but they have that very different powers and responsibilities there. Back on the immigration situation, RJ saying 90 people, I guess when you have 5 extra stuffed in an SUV and no seatbelts, bad things result. Basically, that's what it comes down to, because, we're not talking about people out for a nice, quiet Sunday drive with everyone definitely buckled in and no one distracted or anything like that. We're talking about people crammed into these vehicles because that's what the smugglers are most interested in. And probably part of the reason the pursuits start in some cases, because it ends up looking weird. You got too many people in too many places and cars that are not supposed to be in that way, these SUVs, and that's what makes the pursuit guidelines particularly important. And the fact that the whole rabbiting trend of it, literally in the one incident we talked about earlier, that the lights came on and they floored it. The law enforcement lights came on and the people in the vehicle that was then having the lights flashed at them ended up flooring it, and therefore at the very least crashing, if not rolling. I mean, at a certain point, you got to respond to that, since we do have these incidents continuing on here. But on the larger immigration situation, of course, during some of the visits, or even the prequel to the visits that we've had in our region recently, including, of course, the presidential visit, the Senate, and sure, I'll throw in there the mayor of New York visiting, there has been talk about like the CBP One app. We've mentioned that more than a couple of times as it's not exactly a third country processing. It's not exactly a migrant protection protocols, MPP, remain in Mexico type policy, but you can kind of see shades of it throughout. Essentially what it is that you then, if you are wanting to, from specific countries, including Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, some of the highest traffic ones that had been seeing an expansion, particularly the Venezuelans, of the enforcement under Title 42. But with Title 42 in limbo at the very least, we're coming up in oral arguments just next month, and the timeline after that for the actual decision may be expedited, might just be part of the regular session of the Supreme Court decisions that are therefore released. Questions remain, but still in limbo would be the best way I can describe it currently. The CBP One app being put forth now to be still available and possible even under Title 8. But the, of course, catches that come along with it are involving the fact that if you do illegal entry while trying to process through this app, the app, what it does is essentially reserves a space in line more or less, that's the simplest way I can put it. Of course, it's way, way, way more complicated than that, but reserves a place in line to present yourself at a port of entry. As we also have Bernadette Bandicole. Good afternoon to you as well, joining us over on the Facebook and social media. And Robbie Flores saying about New York City residents are really missing Giuliani right now. Let me just say on the back end of it here, I've never spoken with the man himself here, but have heard from some of his people in office. There's been a lot more focus in other ways on our region. I'm just going to say that. And RJ saying those coming over now are getting Social Security numbers. I guess what happens to wages. So Social Security numbers, not positive about that. Temporary work authorization under the CBP1 program, yes. That's about 2 years, but if they do illegal entry while waiting for the processing of this program, they're completely ineligible for it for at least a period of 5 years, if not longer, as far as I'm aware. So there's a lot of parts of it, but the real numbers are coming out. Something that we had mentioned is that the parole part of it, all of these constituent populations and points of origin, again, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, and the parole that comes along with it. So that's why it's not just released pending trial or pending the hearings, more accurately, like it is with asylum proceedings. It's then a parole that comes along with, temporary documents, work authorization, etc. That is the focus of a lawsuit that has now been filed, at the very least announced as of today, by Attorney General Ken Paxton, of course, here in Texas. Just article of the title of the release here, quote, Paxton sues Biden administration to stop new program that would allow hundreds of thousands of aliens to come into the country every year. Mentioning that, of course, it was talked about in the CBP1, about 30,000 of those populations being allowed into the U.S. every month through it. So, of course, just do the math on that. Now calling it 36,000. Just a release here. The DHS program will establish a new visa system that will allow for up to 36,000 aliens from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to be, quote unquote, paroled into the United States every year, end quote. Basically saying that this is infringing on congressional powers when it comes to dealing with this, saying that only Congress has authorized parole or foreign aliens who meet very specific standards that have not been met in this stance. And also, the further way they're putting it here is very interesting to me, saying that this program unlawfully creates a de facto pathway to citizenship for those hundreds of thousands that we are talking about. So that's the interesting part and kind of gets crux of that argument coming out from Paxton, that this is de facto pathway to citizenship, given the fact that they are able to gain lawful status and stay in the U.S. for up to 2 years, or as they put it, even longer in this release. Paxton quoted as saying directly in the release, quote, every state in America, especially border states like Texas, is being crushed by the impacts of illegal immigration. The Biden open borders agenda has created a humanitarian crisis that is increasing crime and violence in our streets, overwhelming local communities, and worsening the opioid crisis. This unlawful amnesty program, which will invite hundreds of thousands of aliens into the U.S. every year, will only make this immigration crisis drastically worse. So interesting bit, and we got the link to the full lawsuit as also as part of it. I mean, it ends up being legalese and a lot to delve into. It's approximately 40 pages, just under, as part of it there. So haven't delved into all of that just yet, but checking the date on it there. Yep, filed as of today. So again, that would probably be a lot of rhetoric going on with this. Another part of it that I've seen at least some initial conversation coming out, checking some of those local numbers at the very least from the city of El Paso's migrant crisis, the elpaso.texas.gov/migrant-crisis, the migrant situational awareness dashboard. Is that name changed, or I don't remember offhand. Anyway, of course, we had the high water mark in the last weeks of the year of over 10,000 community releases. For the last complete calendar week, there were at about 159, or that was the rolling 7-day average. The actual total amount was just over 1,111, interestingly enough. So we've seen a literal 90% decrease so far. And some of the op-eds and other commentary on this is about how there may be some touting of this. I mean, we got January numbers and full ones expected out for like the last month of how the change is. Though I think there are further implications. I mean, certainly this was a part of some of those recent national political visits, but let's just say we have conversation probably coming in future days about how this may have been essentially a sideshow to the rest of that, and that the real focus may be on other signature policies or potential achievements on the border, including Bridge of the Americas. But that's a conversation we're working on you for here. But the idea of this being touted as a success, victory, and new policies coming into place, fixing it, is, well, definitely going to be part of, I think, the national kerfuffle, but something we'll keep seeing on our streets. I think that the local situation will still pretty well revolve around the policies, of course, being deployed, Title 42, and the potential of it. I mean, that concept is not going to easily go away anytime soon, I don't think. So we may see more waxing and waning based on enforcement actions and what the considerations / bill of good is being sold to those attempting to cross, and what their considerations are, how the cartels are convincing them to give them their money, those kind of things. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a part of it. But the way it's put forth, and frankly, the marketing efforts about how this works will also be a very important part of it that we'll have to keep our eye on going forward here. So that's going to do it for us for this segment. We're going to go ahead and take that break. And as we do at this point during the program, open up those phone lines. We've talked about a lot of things to set up the slightly delayed start of the week here. So we certainly want to hear from y'all. We have that phone line open now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Yes, in good working order, have it on good authority here for today. So again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso fires at a crash with injuries North Desert Boulevard just before red. That's slowing traffic. I-10 westbound is slow from Sunland Park up to Artcraft with 5-minute delays. In the lower valley, a stalled semi is stopped in the right lane on Memorial Highway northbound at North Loop Drive. And an injury accident northbound George Dieter just before Montana at Turner Road. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Are you tired of listening to stories that are saturated with wokeness? If you are, then you should try Red Pilled America. We tell good old-fashioned stories that align with middle America values. Listen to Red Pilled America anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
I never write reviews, but Navage is so amazing, I had to leave one. Nothing's ever cleared out my sinuses as well. I'm blown away by how Navage works. That's a review from Carrie, and it's one of over 100,000 online testimonials praising Navage. I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I've talked about flushing out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, how Navage's powered suction can help you breathe better, and how your nose is the body's air filter, and Navage will clean it out. But don't take my word for it. What do people like Chad say, who wrote, Navage has helped clear out my nasal passages every single night. My wife says my snoring has gone way down. Snorefest be gone, unquote. Navage is the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million customers to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
El Paso. Does getting credit up to $150 a month to spend on everyday needs like food and over-the-counter products or to pay for utility bills sound good? Then ask about a United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan. You'll keep all your Medicaid benefits and get more benefits at no cost to you. Call United Healthcare today at 1-855-UHC-MORE. That's 1-855-UHC-MORE. Benefits, features, and or devices vary by plan and area. Limitations and exclusions apply. Food, OTC, and utility benefits have expiration time frames. Call your plan or review your evidence of coverage EOC for more information.
Hey, Texas. There are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
Staples Print and Marketing is committed to quality and printing perfect every time. Now at Staples, get $10 off your document printing and marketing materials order of $50 or more. Offer ends $225. See staples.com/store/printpick for details. Try Staples and see the difference.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media posts and pages that we are up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff that we are getting into here today, so if you wanted to add your 2 cents, all those pages that we have mentioned here are the right place for you to do so as we continue our mission to talk about live local talk radio, or to have it and to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland. Do have those phone lines open now. Of course, that number to call, again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Got a few callers on the line already. We'll get to a few more here, so availability. And I think we're going to push to the top of the hour at this point. Don't want to shortchange anyone on it here. Flock going Mena saying, thanks for paying your phone bill. You're very welcome. I wish I could claim anything about it, like just kind of a downstream, because as far as I'm aware, this was like a mildly regional thing. One of those, oh, hey, we're doing something on the back end, and by the way, nothing should go wrong, and then someone goes wrong and the person's saying it. But appreciate the defense, Robbie Florida, saying, oh, leave him alone. It wasn't his fault. You never call in anyway. I mean, we've got the many ways that y'all can comment and participate in the show for a reason, to be whatever works best for you. And phone line is kind of foundational. It's fairly how we've been doing that for the longest here. So it was heartbreaking for me that we were in that circumstance, and why we're back on track, kind of treating this as Monday. But remember, it's definitely Tuesday of this week, so make sure you're keeping up with it there. Here, a couple other things I wanted to mention here, of course, with the weather, we still got the cold weather around, so still stay safe out in those streets. There could be ice developing overnight. We're still looking to go down to the 20s. And then also, another fun thing is noted by our news partners there, deadline to pay 2022 property taxes coming up 1 week from today. So mark that in your calendar with red, green, blue, whatever color will drag your attention, and remember to be just so happy about it, because this will be the rubber hits the road moment. So I'm sure a lot of people, as we get closer to that, will probably be saying oh, right, all those property taxes. Like, honestly, if I was involved in any elected official organization or campaigning for it, I would be running a huge event right now saying, hey, pay your taxes. And remember, if you hate what's happening there, remember to be involved with it the rest of the year, because the decisions that affect it happen well before this point here. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next break and get back ready for the top of the hour for you here. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after the break and the top of the hour news with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso fires had a crash with injuries North Desert Boulevard just before red. That's slowing traffic. I-10 westbound is slow from Sunland Park up to Artcraft with 5-minute delays. In the lower valley, a stalled semi is stopped in the right lane on Memorial Highway northbound at North Loop Drive. And an injury accident northbound George Dieter just before Montana at Turner Road. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be El Paso's #1 volume dealer in new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram sales in 2022. Our goal is to ensure that everyone gets the best deals and exceptional trade-in offers, so we can be #1 again in 2023.
Trade in and trade up for less during the Start Something New sales event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For a limited time, get super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on new 2022 Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokees, and get $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, we have a huge selection of new Dodge Chargers and certified pre-owned vehicles with the best prices in town. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Trade in and trade up for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 and Sunland Park Drive, or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance. All select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed... could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. California is renewing its push for tougher gun laws after a pair of mass shootings. Governor Gavin Newsom says the Second Amendment is becoming a suicide pact. He told the CBS Evening News he's not opposed to legal and responsible gun ownership that includes background checks and proper training. He vowed they would figure out how the mass shooter in Monterey Park got a modified pistol, which is illegal in the state. He says things fall through the cracks, but it doesn't mean you give up. The Senate Minority Leader is handing off the debt ceiling issue to President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
The final solution to this particular episode lies between Speaker McCarthy and the president.
Kentucky Republican Mitch McConnell said he's doubtful a debt ceiling measure from the Democrat-controlled Senate would pass the Republican-controlled House. There are reports of damage following a tornado in southeast Texas this afternoon. The National Weather says the tornado touched down near Pasadena shortly after 2 and traveled northeast at about 60 miles per hour. According to the Houston Chronicle, there is damage to several homes and trailers, with some structures appearing to have partially collapsed. Google is being sued by the Justice Department. 8 states are also joining in on the lawsuit that targets Google's stranglehold in the online advertising market. The plaintiffs claim Google conducted a campaign to stifle potential competition. The White House is sending U.S.-made Abrams tanks to Ukraine. Lisa Taylor reports.
According to CNN, the Biden administration is finalizing plans, but the timing is still unclear. The announcement could be linked to a situation with Germany. It told the U.S. last week it wouldn't support Ukraine with its Leopard tanks unless the U.S. did the same with its M1 Abrams tanks. I'm Lisa Taylor.
One person is dead after a small plane crashed in Indianapolis. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The ex-FBI agent accused of aiding Russian oligarchs is free on bond. Sarah Lee Kessler reports.
Charles McGonigal is free on a $500,000 personal recognizance bond after facing a judge Monday in Manhattan federal court. The former counterintelligence agent is charged with violating U.S. sanctions against Russian President Vladimir Putin by working for Oleg Deripaska, one of Putin's billionaire buddies, after he retired from the FBI in 2018. McGonigal is also charged with taking $225,000 in bribes from an Albanian spy. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
The co-founder of Sesame Workshop and the man who helped start Sesame Street is dead. Lloyd Morissette died yesterday, although a cause of death hasn't been revealed. His co-creator Joan Gans Cooney said there would be no Sesame Street without Morissette, and it was him who came up with the idea of using TV to teach preschoolers basic skills. The rates of homicides in the U.S. have drastically increased over the past few years, and a new study puts Atlanta on top of a list of big cities seeing the highest increases. Scott Kimbler has more.
The financial trends website WalletHub recently completed a study of major cities it considers to have the biggest homicide problems. The study showed Atlanta has the highest increase of 9.5 homicides per 10,000 people in the last quarter of 2022. That is nearly 5 times as many as the last quarter of 2021. For actual homicide counts, overall, Baltimore claims the top slot for the last quarter. Memphis comes in at number 4, and Atlanta ranks as number 5.
Comedy legend Maya Rudolph is set to appear in Eminem's Super Bowl ad. Speaking with Today.com, the Bridesmaids alum described herself as a lifelong lover of the candy and said the partnership was something little Maya would be thrilled about. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. GRAND. That's GRAND. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
It's Lisa Booth. The race for RNC chair is underway. We'll talk to constitutional law attorney Harmeet Dillon about why she is challenging incumbent Ronna McDaniel. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Attend the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, January 28th and 29th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Maddox, El Paso, Texas. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, custom knives, ammo, scopes, rifles, shotguns, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, January 28th and 29th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Maddox, El Paso, Texas. Get $2 off admission. For more information, go to azgunradio.com.
And now for today's Roblox winter weather alert. iHeartland on Roblox has been walloped by a winter snowstorm. It is a winter wonderland. You can now ice skate at State Farm Park. In State Farm Neighborhood, you can compete in snowball fights, grab a hot cocoa and cookies, and more. There's also special events from your favorite artists and podcasters all month, along with scavenger hunts, exclusive content, and unique items. So enjoy the festive winter weather at iHeartland on Roblox. Head to iHeartRadio.com/iHeartland today.
John, we can't keep putting this off.
Okay, I'll clean the gutters.
I'm talking about your dad.
Well, what can we do? He wants to stay in his house.
We can make his house safer.
You know, he's a proud guy. He's not going to take all our fussing lying down.
That's the idea.
For older people, falling and breaking a hip can be devastating. For easy ways to make home safer, visit orthoinfo.org/falls. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the Orthopedic Trauma Association.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, a lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly at this point during the program here. We do have those phone lines open, if full up at the moment here, but again, as a hint, keep the phone number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, because once we're done with the previous call, it'd be one of your better chances to get on there here. But, of course, more comments coming in there as well. And, of course, those dropping those likes and reacts we do appreciate, including James Radcliffe, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, James Holmes, Robert Haynes, Monica Cervantes, and Bernadette Vandecole. Helps with all those algorithmic things. So that's primarily over on, of course, the Facebook, but also those commenting on, say, social media and other places, including the YouTube channels and such, are all greatly appreciated. But let's dive into those phone lines here right now. We do have Andrew on the west side here to kick it off with us here right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. Just to point out a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
The immigration laws are not broken. We do not have a broken system. It's the system of enforcement that's broken.
Okay, so, I mean, that's been a pretty common refrain along these lines of a broken system. I feel like that's been most of the things being said there. So when you say that it's the enforcement part of it, what do you mean there?
Well, the fact that the Biden administration is not enforcing the laws. We have Border Patrol agents that are out there doing processing work. In other words, they're doing the job of clerks. They're not back out on the line.
Understandable, and that has been a conversation about using them. And I mean, if you want to be specific with it, law enforcement duties can only be done to those who are sworn officers to it. That's why, as much as there's been throwback to previous eras, which both makes me feel so old, and I could have sworn we were just in these situations too, when they've had like not the most recent quote unquote deployments of, say, either National Guard or other armed forces to parts of the border here. I mean, there was even the whole, concertina wire deployment thing in other parts of it. But when they've been deployed previously, particularly in Texas for Operation Lone Star-ish related types of operations, they were doing kind of those back-end bits of work, like manning of the cameras or doing some of the driving, those kind of things, because apprehensions have to be done by sworn officers, which, again, has been a sticking point across administrations, because it's not as simple. Again, you can't just hire any geek off the street or say, hey, you want to work for Border Patrol today? All right, get in the truck kind of thing. Like there's a whole, like it's a literally years long process that, unless there were other significant policy and or legal changes, really can't be short circuited by any way from anyone I've ever talked with professionally or dealt with in different capacities. So complicated, yes. And so that's why dealing with the back end of it has been more than a little bit of a focus here. I mean, there's been talks about, doing more of the staffing, hiring more of the judges, those kind of things all around the idea to basically allow for there to be more wiggle room and therefore usefulness for those that are then on the front lines, those that are actually the sworn officers. Though I will also say there that having known some people involved in this, that's literally like out on doing the patrolling as well, that they have had circumstances where they've had not quite or close to, if not at 4 digits, upwards of 1,000 people that they personally apprehended, encountered, had to detain, etc., in like one shift. So I see where you're getting at there. That's the way they're going about it is the wrong way. But I can also say we are in some very different times than we even have been previously.
Yes, and I agree with what you're saying. Yes, you can't just hire anyone off the street. It is a long process. You're right. The selection process is about a year long, and then after that, you have to pass a very, very stringent academy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but
Yep.
I think the Biden administration, the problem I see is Biden's open invitation to the people of the world to come over here to the United States. Andrew, we have not seen this type of migration ever. And I've lived in El Paso all my life. I have never seen this.
Yeah, the comparisons being made, I'll certainly agree with you on the idea of in living memory, unless there's someone out there that also happens to be around and remember, say, the Mexican Revolution timelines. That's about the only other time frame that's been brought up about kind of in anywhere near similar levels, has been, more than 100 years ago at this point. So, yeah, it's living memory. I'm fairly confident of saying that part of being unprecedented in that time frame and that scope. So certainly challenges here. I mean, there are, I guess, part of the way, brokenness comes into the conversation is about how, like, even the facilities that we have. I mean, there was the whole kids in cages conversations and the fact that we got, cold concrete holding cells that were appropriate in the point in time, arguably, that they were built for. But when you start talking about changes in the way that the migration, the patterns of movement have been happening, is not sufficient anymore. And facilities continue to be overwhelmed and deemed insufficient.
Yes, I agree. But Andrew, I've lived in El Paso all my life, 62 years. I've never seen this. We cannot give these people an expedited path through citizenship. Okay, I'm fully, for helping out the DACA individuals. These people were brought here, as toddlers, as young. Well, they were children. They were children when they were brought here. They pretty much couldn't decide for themselves at the time. But expedited path to citizenship, no, we cannot do that. The system, at some point in time, Andrew, the camel's back is going to break.
I mean, certainly the load we've been having this discussion for a while now, even outside of the specific current circumstances. This has been an issue for a while here, which I think kind of, again, further lends itself to the whole broken conversation because, okay, even if you disagree with the definition, I wouldn't say that anyone is of the opinion, at least reasonably, you can find any opinion you want online because there's plenty of crazy people out there, but people that I would consider reasonable and able to talk about this, put this as it's not working well in any case.
Well, we just we didn't see this type of migration under Trump, nor Obama, nor George Bush. And going back to Bill Clinton, I never saw this. But anyway, I'll let you have the last word, and the mic is yours again.
All right, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it there.
Take care. Take care.
What I will say is this. I think that at least part of the differences we are looking at now, I mean, yes, a lot of analysis to be done about differences between the administrations and the way they handled it. I gotta say, I put a lot on MPP, to an extent, migrant protection protocol, so-called remain in Mexico policy, and definitely on Title 42. And that's not even just me saying it. That's both Of course, other advocates, those particularly in like the immigration advocacy community or those advocating for immigrants individually, have not been very happy with Title 42. And I agree with him in this way, is that it's been the lid on the pressure cooker, basically, because without there being a release valve, without there being something dealt with it, without being anything on the back end, like turning down the flames, the demand coming for it, etc., it just increases the pressure. So saying that it's unprecedented from previous administrations, even I see the level of that, and I understand where you're coming at there, but I think that really that again, MPP and even Title 42 as being the just locking down of that lid without the pressure relief valve necessary for this. So I think that's at least part of what the Biden administration has put forth with the whole, CBP One Act, or One App rather, and also some of their ways that they were talking about. New part of it, I know that the lawsuit that I was reading from, don't worry, I'm never afraid to take the mic back, but if we're having a good conversation, I'm also willing to actually entertain the conversation here. Yeah, so sue me. Anyway, the whole CBP One app, I think the idea of it is to be a pressure relief valve. I don't think it's been put out by the Biden administration as being anything other than temporary authorization, though, of course, the lawsuit that I was reading from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton definitely disagrees with that, calling it de facto legalization or path to citizenship. So this is going to head towards the courts again, as has point to me an immigration and or border security policy in the last few administrations that has not ended up being in courts. And I'll point to you one that's no one ever heard of, because all the major ones, all the most impacting ones, certainly have had the level of court challenges. So I guess I'm not surprised about that in this case. But whether it actually has an effect there has been, of course, recent Supreme Court decisions talking about that the president has the authority to definitely end policy whenever it comes to simply executive branch policy on immigration and particularly international relations, which is why the whole decision came down about MPP, saying that, yes, he was right and able to end it in that case, since it basically dealt with entirely foreign relations. I mean, that was the point of the program, is that people were being kept in Mexico, hence the name that got nicknamed with Remain in Mexico policy, because, they couldn't really do anything else with them domestically, so it's entirely a foreign relations thing. Anyway, point is that there may be some case law that affects that there, but this potentially moving forward, seeing other states, I'm sure other states will sign on to it, of course. But the fact that it may go into powers of Congress, and the very least involving domestic policy and parts of it, I mean, this is beyond just deferred action, I would say, in that case. So if there is not legal authorization, that might be a reasonable part of the challenge being done there. And what could be part of legal packages, bipartisan agreements, etc., coming out of this recent Congress. But I'm still not going to be holding my breath on that one. Frankly, anything substantive coming here, I know that sounds very pessimistic. I'm allowing myself room to be pleasantly surprised, but until we come to that point, I'm not going to turn blue in the face. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls on the line. We got more comments that we'll delve into here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Remember that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound downtown at the Cotton Street exit, and accidents blocking 2 left lanes. We'll make that 1 left lane as they've just unblocked 1 lane. Expect delays there. Eastbound red at North Desert Boulevard. Police are on the scene of a crash there. South Desert Boulevard at Trans Mountain. A stalled vehicle is blocking the turnaround lane. I-10 eastbound between Sunland Park and Artcraft. It's a 5-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West. That's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. I sell custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters that are easy to install at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are custom-made for your windows, and I guarantee they'll fit. Don't hire a pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip, wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Hey Texas! This time of year is all about coming together and enjoying time-honored holiday traditions or starting your own. This winter, make sure your fellow Texans, especially those with a serious mental health condition, know how to stay informed and protected from increased COVID-19 risks associated with serious mental illness. Getting vaccinated is pro-Texan protection against COVID-19. Visit www.vaccines.gov/search to find a vaccine provider near you.
They say they'll get your biggest tax refund. Jackson Hewitt says your biggest tax refund guaranteed, and a chance to double your tax refund. Thousands in weekly prizes during the Double Your Refund sweepstakes. Your biggest refund ×2, twice the money, so forget about them. File your taxes on the double at Jackson Hewitt today. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open to U.S. residents 18 or older who file a 2022 federal tax return. Promotion ends 4/2/23. Visit jacksonhewitt.com for rules.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline, so I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly at this point during the program. Do have that phone line open full up at the moment here. I try to make it clear if there ever is availability, but usually at the end of any call, that's a good way to do it and find it, get your availability on the line. Keep that number handy for that purpose. Of course, it's at the top of our screen for those in social media land, but for those out in the radio world, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM is the number that you can call. And a lot more comments getting into there, those dropping them over online, including about grabbing the mic back. Again, if you actually want to talk with me, make a point, have a discussion here, that's what we do, particularly as we continue our mission to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland. So to that point and purpose here, let's get to that next call on the line. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Yesterday, soon after I got off your show, there was another mass shooting in gun-sick America. You know, I'll tell you what has affected El Paso. Guns in the hands of a racist, xenophobic nut. Hello?
Yeah, we got you here. Are you there? Hello.
Incited by the words of a powerful, racist, xenophobic nut who was the only president in U.S. history to be impeached 2 times, the second for plotting to overturn a legitimate election with a coup. Now, this latest shooting occurred in Half Moon Bay, California, where this 67-year-old Asian gentleman shot 7 people to death. And now police are telling us that they believe that the massacre was an instance of workplace violence. Again, you're not safe at work. The guy went postal. Now, in 2022, according to the Gun Violence Archive, they counted 647 mass shootings in the United States, 21 of which involved 5 or more fatalities. And overall, 1,214 people have been killed so far this year, including 120 children. Now, the Second Amendment opens with a language setting forth the reason citizens can own guns and under which conditions. A well-regulated militia necessary to the security of a free state. And not just everyone should be able to own a gun, all the weapons they want without any restrictions. That bastardization of the language has resulted in the gun deaths in this country, which is full of crazy people with the ability to get all the guns and ammo that they want. Now, Americans have lost their freedom from the fear of being shot while shopping, partying, worshiping, working, or the fear of having their kids killed at school. Also, the gun nuts can buy as many assault weapons and guns as they want, thanks to the NRA, the merchants of death plutocrats, and the purchased politicians primarily in the Republican Party.
Okay, so a couple of things there. Again, we keep going around the bend on the whole Second Amendment language of an argument here. Yes, there are things about, subordinate and supportive phrases as it comes to there. I mean, the way you even read it on its own is not a full and complete statement. But let's also make it clear that at the time of the founders, we want to go back to the whole idea of what they had available to them. They were warships that were owned by private citizens. Privateers is what they were. They weren't exactly doing letters of marque or anything like that, but cannons, artillery, those things, the whole what was going on, the British are coming. That was not a official governmental stockpile, considering that the U.S. didn't exist at that point in time. So if you're trying to go with the idea, it's not allowing of this here, it technically allows a lot more if that's the way you want to go about it. And there have been more supporting Supreme Court cases, including the idea that basically sawed-off shotguns are an NFA, National Firearms Act, regulated item because it is not serviceable as a weapon of war. It would not be useful except in a personal defense circumstance. So therefore, it was not allowed to be an exemption from that. So if you want to talk about this being, it's only a modern thing, I mean, that case, what is that, Miller from the 20s or so here? Give me a second to look that up. I'll have that answer in a minute here. But to the actual idea about what you're putting forth here, that gun control, that we need a whole lot more of it. Let's juxtapose then California, where this happened, with the hell everywhere else, because you want to talk about some serious, and I do mean serious, restrictions on all of this. I think it was even part of the news updates we have so far. The questions arise about how this guy got a hold of this, because it is absolutely not legal in the state of California. Not the magazine, not the weapon itself, the way it was designed, not the, if I was looking at the pressure, the pictures correctly, couldn't tell if it was intended to be some kind of homemade suppressor or just like an extended barrel shroud, handhold kind of thing. So the questions about how this would actually go about dealing with it, besides just an outright ban, because again, pretty much start to finish, anything part about this incident and what that dude specifically had, from what I've seen, not allowed in that area. So this is the part I keep coming around to here. And you assume that, everyone that wants a gun is fine with everything that comes with it. Absolutely not. The fact that anyone dies from a incident involving crime is concerning to me, and frankly the fact that someone who does something that I do appreciate and have as a hobby, I mean, I do treat it as such, but also as an important thing. But the idea that anyone ends up dying from these in these kind of circumstances does hurt the heart. This is not something to be immune to. But the idea that, okay, and therefore just throw all the laws out that we can, more laws on top of the laws that we're already not doing here. If there was an example of something that I thought, I think this will work, I think this will have some ability, I do think there are arguments to be made about waiting periods. To an extent, this is not a blank slate kind of statement here of a carte blanche, do whatever you want. But I mean, removing it from essentially crimes of passion kind of time frame wouldn't eliminate all of it, but could go a decent way. I think that honestly, training should be required, but I know that'll often also be twisted into therefore training is unavailable. Those kind of things. Like, there's all these things that I think would be good and reasonable to do, but that wouldn't be totally taken that way, would be ending up being twisted. So it's suffice it to say, I've seen no example of the idea of laws even impacting this, that at least the way they've been put forth, that actually address the problem. It often goes to the law-abiding gun owners. The people will be like, okay, well, I'm following the law, so therefore I'll give this up. I mean, I'm not trying to rehash the whole only criminals don't follow the laws, only law-abiding people follow the law, so the criminals won't be affected anyway. Yeah, there's a whole arguments about supply to be made, but let's just say that the ways they've been put forth, I don't have a concrete example of something that I think would work to curb this, to deal with this. I think mental health treatment is an important aspect, but that's kind of a general societal thing and not directly derived towards this. So given the difference between, let's just say, Texas and California, this happened in California, what more laws would you want to have in that circumstances and in that case?
I was hearing a California official say that the laws that they have results in a lower per capita homicide rate in California than other states. So I would leave it to them. But in my case, I would want to have a tax on all gun sales, on all ammunition sales, sufficient to cover the damage done by these guns by the nuts who are able to get their hands on them. Also, sufficient to cover increased security at schools so parents don't have to worry about their kid being shot at school while living in America. Now, on another subject about how lies from the right-wing media, affect the society as a whole. Fox Corporation's founder and owner, Rupert Murdoch, was questioned under oath last Thursday and Friday in a defamation suit over his network's coverage of unfounded vote-rigging claims during the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Dominion Voting Systems is seeking $1.6 billion from Fox for amplifying false claims that its machines were used to rig the election against Donald Trump in favor of Democrat Biden. Now, Dominion also wants the communications from Murdoch and his son Latchland again, and other Fox News personnel to prove that the network either knew the statements it aired were false or recklessly disregarded their accuracy. In that lawsuit, by the way, one of the people that appears on your station was deposed, and that's Sean Hannity. And he ends up saying in that deposition under oath that he never believed this election was stolen from Trump. Do you believe, Sean, that along with Sean, that you don't believe the election was stolen?
I mean, we trust our other hosts to do their own things here. Let me just put it this way. I don't endorse pandering to an audience. I mean, that's the way a lot of things work these days. But saying that, because the people that listen to me and therefore I want to keep around believe these things, I'm only going to bring them those things. I mean, we choose what we talk about on this program as we're getting very far afield on the subjects here because again, that's what interests you, but Friday is coming if you really want to go about it this way. Point is that if you're going to, you mess around, you find out what it comes down to it, and libel or slander, depending on if it's in print or not, is a very real thing. And sure, there's a different kind of burden whenever it comes to like elected officials, which is why when we talk about them or other people make statements about them, it's just different. There have been other court cases basically saying that, yeah, because they are public figures and therefore elected on, discussion about them can happen. Kind of what we were talking about yesterday, actually, about the whole concept of fighting words, First Amendment, etc. That if you're doxing someone, calling for violent actions, those kind of repercussions about them, that's one thing. But if you're saying that I don't like these people, again, elected officials, but the Dominion you're talking about there, not elected officials involving in the election process, but Clore putting it FAFO is the shorthand version of it. I'll let you all figure out the, let's just say it's not friend around and find out. So point is that, if you're going to say things that are libel, slander, defamation, etc., against a specific person, group, organization that can cause demonstrable harm to them. And that's one of the key things in that whole Dominion thing is that they're showing that like contracts were canceled, etc. So let's just say I don't agree with them on that point here. If there were questions about when it comes to the 2020 election, I think that the most reasonable way to go about it is about the way laws were enforced or lack thereof, court decisions going on to it, which is not necessarily as much of a therefore undo, but rather, okay, if you want this to work that way in the future, you better be dealing with it, state legislatures, etc. Anyway, that's a long way to say that, they're messing around and finding out, and I make no claim to them when it comes to these court cases. They do their own things on the show, but also, as has been said elsewhere, if you're trying to use this program to hold other ones accountable, they take their own phone calls, so you can call them if you want to here. Otherwise, we're going to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth, as we're getting pretty far afield there. But let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Come out of this break, we got more calls on the line. We'll be taking more and more comments as well, including a lot more people commenting. We'll delve into some of those. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. Again, remember that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. Longtime El Paso County Attorney Joanne Bernal announced today she is not seeking re-election. Bernal's term will end December 2024 after 14 years of service. In 2009, she became the first woman elected county attorney in El Paso's history. During her time as county attorney, Bernal offered legal advice to the county during the emergency declaration during the pandemic and the migrant crisis. As county attorney, Bernal manages an office with an annual budget of $7.5 million and supervises more than 100 employees. She gives no explanation so far as to why she'll not try to continue. And in crash involving a law enforcement pursuit, closed all southbound lanes along Loop 375 at North Loop this morning. The crash in El Paso's Lower Valley was reported just before 10 a.m., and our crews obtained video of several men detained on their knees who were apparently riding in the vehicle. A total of 4 vehicles were involved, including a semi in the collision, according to El Paso fire officials. We'll have more information in our newscast. For now, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound at the Cotton Street exit, a 5-vehicle accident has closed 2 left lanes, and traffic is mostly stopped. The backup is all the way back to Schuster Avenue exit with 20-minute delays. Montana Avenue eastbound is slow from McRae out to Zaragoza with 18-minute delays, and a stalled vehicle is blocking the turnaround lane on South Desert Boulevard at Trans Mountain. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like a dry and cold one for tonight. Keep the coats and jackets handy. Temperatures in the 40s for this evening, dropping down into the 20s by tomorrow morning. Partly cloudy skies, highs in the 40s, so another coat jacket day for tomorrow. And then for your Friday, partly cloudy after lows in the teens and 20s. We'll see highs in the lower 50s, so the cooler pattern continues. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Lisa Booth, the race for RNC chair is underway. We'll talk to constitutional law attorney Harmeet Dillon about why she is challenging incumbent Ronna McDaniel. Listen to the Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be El Paso's #1 volume dealer in new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram sales in 2022. Our goal is to ensure that everyone gets the best deals and exceptional trade-in offers so we can be #1 again in 2023.
Trade in and trade up for less during the Start Something New sales event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For a limited time, get super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on new 2022 Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokees, and get $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, we have a huge selection of new Dodge Chargers and certified pre-owned vehicles with the best prices in town. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Trade in and trade up for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance. All select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and my company is Blindster.com. I started Blindster in 2010 to provide custom blinds, shades, and shutters at affordable prices. Our blinds are easy to install and shipping is free. Don't hire an expensive professional. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of interesting comments going on there about callers, other things like that. That's pretty well par for the course here. But also, actually, a question from a Barrio Panther coming up right now, not saying, not sure if anyone saw council today, but Kennedy and Anello, referring to city reps, I believe, moved to have police and fire report to council over city management. Not sure how Rep Kennedy understands how governance works. It's an interesting, I've heard rumblings about that. I think it's seen an agenda item or so here, but the idea of it, and therefore the reports coming through to directly, I mean, well, I think that kind of plays maybe a little bit more to what was kind of a subplot of this whole 2022 election when it comes to city council was about an idea that was getting positive about returning to the strong mayor form of government. So potentially removing the city manager part of government, in which case it would be direct reports. So maybe not a total movement like it, but kind of in the vein, further along the spectrum anyway, of being total city manager to total strong mayor system, therefore reporting to council, somewhere maybe or along the end of that. So, I mean, there's other things that we'll be paying attention to on city council. Haven't been totally planning on it just yet, but like people I know that were signed up for it, and I'm sure myself before too long, there's a talk about, particularly for the city council meeting today, more focus on those May election items. Yes, there's going to be a May one for some of those ballot initiatives. There were none of them, not really any of them, on the city council election ballot as of, again, 2022. So them coming up on the off year election time frame is a possibility. So I see that as prelude to that, essentially. James Radcliffe also chiming in about some previous elected official or previous positions anyway, referring to the Escobar, Bernal, O'Rourke, Byrd, and Shapley group that dominated political seats back in the day, and saying them playing ignorant that any documents involved by FBI search in 2011 on Anthony Cobos. Anytime Anthony Cobos comes up here, I mean, yeah, former, El Paso County elected official, etc. Here, of course, they mentioned Veronica Escobar placed him. That was part of that, the real stupid period of corruption in El Paso. I mean, we had that. We had, I think it was a little bit before my time here, so if I'm misquoting here, but we definitely had a superintendent from like EPISD getting arrested for just the dumbest level of corruption too. I mean, I think Anthony Cobos, I have other questions about him beyond elected integrity and things like that, including just stability, because I think more recently he was in jail, if I'm not mistaken, involving a like really weird pseudo scheme involving mortgages and buildings or in the payment of them or lack thereof. Anyway, he actually came and spoke to my high school class one time. Was it Acadec? It may have been, or some other community group or student organization I was a part of, and gave this interesting spiel about how everything revolves around your wallet, and got it out and talked about how the taxes are important here. But that was kind of like, okay, we wanted more about how you like dealt with it than just why civics are important. We're like a vaguely civically involved group, so let's talk turkey here was kind of the thing. But interesting way you put it there. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines, squeeze in what we can here at the end of the show. We do have Barbara on the west side with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing.
I wanted to take make a few comments to your listening audience, really directed it to them. And I wanted to know that several weeks ago, if not months ago, I actually blocked Eric from my Facebook. I don't use Facebook. I set up Facebook for the sole purpose of listening to 690, to your program.
Fair enough.
The reason I blocked Eric is because I didn't see any value in the comments of in the contents of his posts. Recently, though, I've seen some of your listeners send messages to you asking you to remove derogatory comments apparently aimed at me by Eric. And I want to thank the audience for that, the listening audience for that. But he continually referenced an article that I mentioned and posted on 690 many, many months ago. And that would be the balkanization of America. And that's exactly what I talked about, how I referenced the article that I read when I read it. It's a document published by Dr. Brent Nelson. I did not read a book, any book that Dr. Brent Nelson has published. If he has, I don't know. But I read the article and I agreed with portions of his article, which I specifically stated when I called into your show. When I read this article, I didn't read it through the lens of racism, because I'm not a racist. And I didn't read it through the lens of hatred. I'm not a hater. Nor did I read it through the lens of being a white supremacist, because I'm not, despite Eric's allegations. The article, in my view, did not discuss racism, hatred, or white supremacy. I read the article through the lens of understanding an author's perspective. He states facts and examples. He starts by stating that, according to the Census Bureau, estimates that by 2050, we're going to have 400 million people in the United States, which is greater than the optimum population for a nation our size. So when I read that, of course, my interest was piqued. I continued reading the article. And he further stated that by 2050, there will be several blocks of minority groups in the United States. There will be no majority group, and in particular, those who founded our country, European Americans. That's not a racist statement. That's a fact. And Dr. Brent further states that we will identify by minority group or status, and that we will eventually ignore the nation as a whole. So ultimately, what he's saying is we're not going to have a common language, a distinct culture, or a shared history, which is what a nation is. I believe his assessment. I don't believe that we will be a cohesive nation if we don't change the trajectory of our nation. And the question that Dr. Nelson asks at the end of his article is, can we survive? My opinion is I don't believe that we can survive in a multicultural society, which is what he described in his article. I based my conclusion on the examples he set forth, the facts that he gave, and he gave certain facts about Arkansas, and he mentioned Miami, and he mentioned LA. He also mentioned the ruling elites, which will become part of the international elites, and he talked about the global economy. And I don't believe in a global economy. I don't believe that we should have global elites. We are a nation. We're a cohesive group of people, and that's what I focused on. And he also described the internal struggles of a multicultural society, which I found extremely enlightening. I'm not a history buff, but he did mention Yugoslavia.
Of course.
So I read a bit about their history in a multicultural society and the struggles they encountered. Nothing I concluded or what I read was about racism, hatred, or white supremacy. I based what I read and my conclusion, like I said, on the facts and examples that he gave. So when I posted the article on your program, I posted it there for those who were interested in reading it because it has a lot.
Sure.
I mean, I couldn't summarize it right now in less than 30, 40 minutes. But I want the listeners to know that this article, and do I research and do my due diligence on every single word in a document or in an article I read? No. Was there any reason for me to think that there was anything racist about our race as our nation, that I would look it up and find out that it's, ADL is American Defamation League or whatever? I had no reason to question the title. I wouldn't look it up because I wanted to know about the balkanization of America. That's what interested me here. So this idea that I'm a white supremacist extremist, a hater, is beyond the pale. And hey, everybody can read this article, come to their own conclusions like I did. I think we're all entitled to an opinion. Because if we have an opinion, you can't categorize us to be a racist or a hater or a white supremacist. We are all individuals that we can think and arrive at our own conclusions without being forced or intimidated about what we've concluded. So I just wanted to hopefully settle this. And again, I don't see his comments, but I do see some of the comments that they sent to you, Andrew. And I don't want the listening audience to feel that poor Barbara, because I intentionally blocked him. Like I said, I don't see value in reading his comments. They're too divisive. There's nothing there to carry a conversation forward. It's just a bang, bang, bang. And I don't feel I can communicate with people like that. So again, I want to thank everybody for sending you requests, Andrew. But defending me, I stand on my own, but I do appreciate the friendship that has been shown and the kindness that some of your listeners have shown towards me. And that I really, really appreciate. So I don't know what else I can say about this article that I read. People know who I am. I'm telling you who I am, believe it or not. And that's all I can do. So if he wants to keep on doing what he's doing, well, I guess I can't stop that, right?
Well, let's just say we've made some clear policies here that anyone who wants to discuss things here, I mean, I appreciate you sharing your perspective, certainly here. Disagree with you on some of the finer points on the idea of essentially that we're on an immutable path of balkanization. I think it's something that could happen if not essentially handled right, essentially making sure that we do secure, the benefits of the Constitution to ourselves and our forebears in such a way that it does include all. But what I will say is that anyone who doesn't actually want to discuss these things, some say, okay, what are the problems with it here? What are the disagreements? And just saying, well, you essentially what I've referred to as "you suck" comments. If that's the substance of it here, we're going to continue to move on from it there. So I appreciate you having and wanting to have a frank discussion about parts of it here.
Well, Andrew, you know what? If we don't read opposition articles, we're not growing as an individual.
Yeah, that's very true.
And to be well-rounded, you read other stuff. That's how you come to an opinion of where you stand and what you feel. And to me, that's a very important part of who we are.
I will agree with you there. Certainly, I've definitely read more than a few things that I personally greatly disagree with, but find it important to understand where it's coming from and to, further lead to the discussion there. So I appreciate you taking the time to answer some of this here and to speak with us about some of the finer points.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much for that here. So I think we can squeeze in at least one more quick call here, see what we can do right now. We do have Frankie and Messi on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right. Let me offer a rejoinder to the comment that Kevin made, which was kind of spot on. Where he more or less said that the lawyers representing Biden who found the top secret or the classified information, were somewhat at fault by doing what they did. No, they were 100% correct on that by following the law and then turning them over. Now, I know where he was going with that, and you could say, well, you want to have a form of, what's the word I'm looking for, loyalty to your boss.
Yeah.
But where it comes down to is the fact that, and it goes back to this thought process of the cover-up is worse than the crime. Because if they would have said, hey, let's see if we can hide this, and in this modern world, there's no way in the world you can keep a secret nowadays. So that's the circumstance right there. So I like what Kevin said on it. He was spot on, but that's my rejoinder on that.
No, fair enough. I mean, it makes a level of sense that, Kevin was getting at is that, who would do this thing? All right. Like if essentially, I don't know if he was suggesting that it was like an op against him of like, all right, because if it's someone employed by him, let's screw over the boss might not be the best way to keep having that job. But I do agree that, I mean, if it was brought up as okay, we found this, bring it to the boss. What do you want to do? Are we bringing this forward? We probably should kind of thing, because think of a scandal that happened recently. Go, well, okay. Honestly, given the anniversary of it, what are we on the 20th anniversary of? Not quite, a little bit later, more than that actually, of the whole Monica Lewinsky scandal. I mean, sure, that was not great on its own, but the fact that it was covered up, the lying under oath, impeachment proceedings, etc., definitely came from, the aftermath of it as opposed to just the incident itself.
Well, you're right. Well, let me just say this. I'm so happy. I found you on Yahoo, and I click on Yahoo, and it leads me to you, and there you are on TV. Right there in front of that little orange microphone of yours, which, by the way, you should do something with that color. Either put some fuzzy stuff around, maybe get some platinum, some silver, and maybe even get a little picture behind you of the Franklin Mountains. That would really be just a cat's meow, I'm telling you, Andrew.
I appreciate the set design comments here. I mean, we mostly use it because I don't breathe too heavily into the mic or pop the peas, but I will see what we can do. Better colors. We've got the station logo behind me right now. I'd love to have a window, that's not great set dressing, but we'll see what we can do. Glad you're able to tune in that way.
Yeah, jazz it up a little bit. Come on, you're the man. You're the man. Come on. I mean, when people are looking at you, they want to see action. They want to see Oscar performances. That's what they want to see.
All right, I will take that under advisement, see what we can do. There's the potential of us having new studio facilities in the next I'm not going to hold my breath on it. Let's just put it that way. But in the near-ish future, so I'll take that under advisement as we look to be making any substantive changes to our actual setting here.
Okay, Andrew, you take care. You're a good man. Take care.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the point in the call. You have a good one there too.
All right.
All right. And with that, okay, let's squeeze in one more because we've had someone patiently on the line here. We do have Marky Mandingo over in Central. Marky, we got a couple of minutes here.
All right, I'll be quick. Okay. When I listened to Raul speak earlier, I could sense a trembling in his voice.
Mm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you just fine.
Yeah, it seems like it pains me. I mean, it pains him to know that the last two mass shootings in California were not done by a white dude, a black dude, a person of color. They were done by Asian dudes. You cannot stop these rivalries that happen in California, especially when, you know, you're talking about people who work in a mushroom farm. Doesn't sound like a great job to me. So the guy killed 11 people one day, and then he's 72, and then the next few days, a dude that's 67 kills, what, 7? So 17, 18 people get massacred, and it's not by the typical white person. It's done by an Asian guy. And these were probably long-time feuds. And so it must pain not just Raul, but I watched The View today, and I never do, but I had to stay home with the kid. And they just neglected talking about this mass shooting because it wasn't the status quo. It wasn't the white supremacist. It was an Asian guy. And these guns were purchased legitimately from what I've read from the news and on ATF and different websites. So I just want to let Raul know that this violence comes from all sorts. Yeah, we need to do something, and I'm all for background checks and all these things. Now, every time I purchase a firearm, and I'm completely clean, it takes like 20, 30 minutes, and my background check is done, and I'm allowed to legally obtain a firearm. I don't mind that. But the blaming of white supremacy needs to stop, because it's not just the average 18 to 25-year-old white guy who's going and shooting up a school or the employer or the post office. It's people of all sorts. And second of all, boys cannot become girls. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call here. I will say that that's the thing about narratives in general. Reality doesn't follow narratives. Reality is going to do what it does and try to package it up nice and neatly all right, and here's the simple anything. There are no simple answers in life. There may be things that are less complicated, but simple is fleeting at best. And anything that is just trying to be applying a lens to it, and therefore it'll be the only way it is. Yeah. Anyway, we got to take that last break. Or tell you what, we're actually at the end of the program here, so we're going to go straight through the end of the top of the hour. So we'll go ahead and close it up for there. I do want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show today. Of course, we got more coming up for you here. Working on some revamping for Wednesday segments. I may not be deployed that just yet, but further conversations about, say, you know, other opportunities, and even like some of the suggestions y'all have made about education or financial segments. So all that and more. So stay tuned for on next week, or sorry, tomorrow rather, but in coming weeks, more of those segments, but also tomorrow 4 to 6 p.m. as we do every Monday through Friday. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. In the meantime, until next time, stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A long line of brake lights through the downtown area after a crash I-10 eastbound at the Cotton Street exit, blocking 2 left lanes, 30-minute backup from Executive Center Boulevard to Cotton. It's slow on the spur from Liberty Expressway eastbound from the Gateway over to the Loop. It's a 7-minute delay. Trans Mountain westbound of 54 Patriot, an earlier crash there has still got all lanes open, just minor slowing. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and my company is Blindster.com. I started Blindster in 2010 to provide custom blinds, shades, and shutters at affordable prices. Our blinds are easy to install and shipping is free. Don't hire an expensive professional. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
El Paso. Does getting credit up to $150 a month to spend on everyday needs like food and over-the-counter products or to pay for utility bills sound good? Then ask about a United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan. You'll keep all your Medicaid benefits and get more benefits at no cost to you. Call United Healthcare today at 1-855-UHC-MORE. That's 1-855-UHC-MORE. Benefits, features, and or devices vary by plan and area. Limitations and exclusions apply. Food, OTC, and utility benefits have expiration time frames. Call your plan or review your evidence of coverage EOC for more information.
Hey, Texas! This time of year is all about coming together and enjoying time-honored holiday traditions or starting your own. This winter, make sure your fellow Texans, especially those with a serious mental health condition, know how to stay informed and protected from increased COVID-19 risks associated with serious mental illness. Getting vaccinated is pro-Texan protection against COVID-19. Visit www.vaccines.gov/search to find a vaccine provider near you.
I love working on my cars, but I wish I had more space for my shop.
Give General Steel a call. In business for over 30 years and with over 5,000 five-star customer reviews, General Steel can help with projects ranging from RV storage and garages to churches, workshops, and even major construction for Fortune 500 companies. And all General Steel custom buildings are backed by our 50-year warranty.
But that's got to cost a fortune.
Actually, General Steel buildings are more affordable than other building options. And thanks to our highly efficient construction, you can go from dreaming it to enjoying it in no time.
I need to give the General a call. How do I get more information?
Call 866-74-STEEL or visit getgeneralsteel.com to find out what General Steel can do for your home or business. That's 866-74-STEEL. Our team will answer your questions and offer you a customized quote. Just call 866-747-8335 now or getgeneralsteel.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. President Biden is urging Congress to pass a bill banning assault weapons.
I'm asking you all to send that to my desk as quickly as you can.
His comments come after two deadly mass shootings occurred in California just days apart. He said Vice President Harris will be visiting the state soon. Yakima, Washington police have located the suspect in a fatal triple shooting that happened this morning at a Circle K convenience store. Officers responded to a tip about the suspect's location, and as officers approached, they heard gunfire and found the suspect injured. Police identified the suspect as Jared Haddock. At least 20 states are suing the Biden administration to block an immigration parole program. The